Uh, she's beating you guys. She's beating you guys because she's been on for the last what, 4 weeks?
I think so. 4 weeks. March 9th. Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Mhm.
Yes. So, what I'd like to do is to get you all to come on. What are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about, uh, let's just talk about life in general. You see, why don't you guys go ahead and share this out so we can talk about life in general? Are you the type of person that is an introvert? Are you the type of person that stays in your comfort zone? So, how are people meeting new people? Let's talk about that. And what foods are you all trying? What different things are you trying? Different foods, different outfits, different lipsticks, different eyeshadows. As you know, it's been snowing out here. We're getting the spring, um, what,
Springtime in
snow
the
rain.
Rockies.
Yeah, it's
It's
snow
called
rain.
springtime in the Rockies. We're
Yes.
in the Rocky Mountain area, and this is what happens during the spring months.
I'm sorry, I was talking over the music.
Hmm.
Dr. D, you got to tell me these things. So let's take that from the top. So you were saying we're go ahead.
The springtime happens, and usually it's in March. I can measure it by the tulips growing in my yard. But I'm from Chicago, and the first time I heard the expression springtime in the Rockies was out here in Denver, Colorado. It means the weather can do whatever it decides to do. If it decides to snow in April, it'll snow. Our first year out here, in fact, we moved out here in January, and May 30th, there was a snowstorm. And I think that was the first time I heard, oh, that's springtime in the Rockies. Anything can happen. One of the other things that people said to me, if you don't like the weather, wait 15 minutes. It'll
Right.
change.
That's true. That's true. Because 1 minute it's 70 degrees, the next minute it's 38 degrees. So,
Yes.
yes. So that's what I was talking about. But like I was saying, hello to everyone. I saw people coming in, and I think the music scared them away. I just want to say, I hope all is well. And let's just talk about life in general. You know, how are people meeting new people? What new foods are you eating? Um, what different things are you trying? And what things are you struggling with? Like, we all are struggling with something. Um, and I know we were talking about, people. I'm going to share this out. Give me a minute to share it out. Um, Anything that you're struggling with, or anything that you have a loss of, Dr. D and I have Patreon, um, and um, we have a platform where we can take it to another level privately. So, do you want to expand on that, Dr. D?
Well, yes, but before I do that, uh, the way I would rephrase your question is, for me, how do I grow? How do I change? What happens that causes me to feel the need to do so? I talk about grief a lot because it's very significant in my life. And so when we go on Patreon, we become more specific about how grief or how loss affects the person, because every one of them is different from the other. The way I deal with it is different from the way my daughter, for example, deals with it. So on Patreon, we get together and we talk about it. We answer questions, we give suggestions, and as a friend of mine in Texas says, we keep it moving. That's what we do on Patreon. So if we get back to what's going on, the questions that you ask, then I'd respond to, how do I change? How do I grow? What is the motivation to get up in the morning, for example? What's the motivation to know that there's something about me that needs to change and that makes me want to change, that gets me up out of that seat, up off the bed or in front of the TV and start looking? For me, it would be first of all looking in the library. For others, it's talking to a friend, or it's corresponding or chatting on Facebook or Instagram. And so, how do I change? When things become uncomfortable enough, I change. Now, that's not anything for me to be proud of, because backing up from that, I finally understood that when God was directing me to change, to move, whatever, and I didn't do it, not because I was ignoring Him, but because I didn't recognize what He was saying to me.
Yeah.
Well, He would make it so uncomfortable that I'd have to change. You wonder why I've moved around so many places in the last 15 years? Because things became uncomfortable enough to move, to
All
take
right.
that risk, to take that leap, and to go someplace else.
Interesting. Okay. Well, and so so were you able to just deal with the change? Did it make things any better, or did you learn from the changes? What did you do?
Well, fortunately, I worked for a company that did that competed for government contracts. And if I was on a team and we were going after, and I'm talking about multi-million dollar contracts, and we ended up being the winning team, then I'd have to move, relocate, let me put it that way. One of the things that I decided early on was, wherever I land, wherever I end up, I'm going to like it. I'm not going to spend the next 5 years being miserable. And so that was the impetus, the motivation uh, for me to change and to be able to move from state to state. I've lived in several states over the last 15 or 20 years. I finally came back to Denver. I called Denver home, although I grew up in Chicago. But I finally came back to Denver because Katrina scared me enough. I was living in Orlando, Florida. It scared me enough for me to say, God, I can't take it. I can't take these hurricanes. They just come with no sense to them. Where should I go? And when I drove home that evening, The realtor who had sold me the house I was living in had left a leaflet saying something like, "Do you need help selling your home?" Well, that was clue enough for me. I contacted her, and the rest is I live back in Denver now.
Wow, that's something. I've only been, well, lived here and of course Illinois, which is where I'm from as well. But and then here, which is some kind of different. It's really different. Um and I want to say, like, that's why I was wondering, if anybody's watching, why don't you come on here and let's talk about it? Let's just talk about life in general. So that's a life changing experience, I must say. So you lived in Illinois, you've lived in Florida, um, and
I've
then
lived
you moved.
I've lived in Virginia, I've lived in Georgia, there's another place I'm forgetting, a couple more places that I've lived. I've enjoyed it. It's been interesting getting to know a city, its streets, and all of those kinds of things, getting to know a culture. When I moved to Georgia, I went into culture shock. It was so different from
um,
the West and the Midwest.
okay.
And one of the first things that I noticed, I commuted from Georgia to South Carolina for work. And on the highway coming home during different seasons, there would be people on the side of the highway selling vegetables, fruits, and all of that. And my first Thanksgiving in Georgia, people pulling over to the side of the highway and buying veggies and all of that. And I pulled over and I probably bought some collard greens and sweet potatoes and got back in the car and then drove to the equivalent of a King Super or a Safeway, got my card and put things in the cart for a traditional Thanksgiving dinner that I knew and I had grown up with. Imagine my surprise when the lady ahead of me had in her cart the same foods, like for macaroni and cheese, for cornbread dressing, and all of that. She had the same foods that I did, the same packages, except she was white. And we struck up a conversation about that. And she was saying, I don't know why they call it soul food because we all eat the same kinds of food.
Well, people from the South, they do, because you're right. They eat just like we eat. But, well, I will say this: it probably didn't. They probably learned from a person of color. It didn't just happen. But
Well,
yeah, people from the
they live
South.
next door to each other. In many neighborhoods, in many communities, they're neighbors.
Yeah. So that's why it goes to show you, speaking of food, what other foods have you tried different? I know that you eat healthy and clean. Is there any food that you have tried that's different that you never thought you would eat?
Well, I'm not sure how I can answer that except to say we ate cauliflower growing up in Chicago and certainly before I left Denver. But I just recently started baking or roasting cauliflower steaks. And that's
Oh,
where
okay.
you pull the the green from the outside of the cauliflower. You can either season it before you slice it into steaks, or after you slice it before you bake it, and drizzle it with avocado oil or extra virgin olive oil, uh, the uh, the oil of your choice. Except I don't use canola oil, and I don't use vegetable oils. I use plant-based oils for the most
Yes.
part. But you drizzle it and season it and put it on parchment paper and bake
Yep.
it on 400 for about 8 minutes before you turn it, and bake it on the other side, and it gets tender and it's really, really good.
Oh, I like cauliflower. I also do cabbage steaks with
Ah,
the,
I,
yes,
I haven't done that.
do the same way like you do your
Okay.
cauliflower, but instead you use cabbage and you cut it,
Okay.
across and make the little steaks. Okay, so yeah, like that. Oh my goodness. I don't know why I'm always running out of power. Let me add some power to it. Okay, so what else can we talk about? Life in general. Are you meeting any new people that's that just popped out of nowhere? I've met a couple of new people this week, and I'm excited to see where that's gonna lead me.
Well, you and I met out of nowhere, what, 4 or 5 weeks ago.
Right.
But before we leave the veggies, I've been reading a lot about avocados, both as, I'm not quite sure it's a fruit or a vegetable, but the avocado that you put in salads, avocados that I put in smoothies, and just experimenting with avocados. Uh, I'm trying to stay away from carbs, starchy vegetables. I'm pretty careful about that. I found some turkey bacon, sugar free turkey bacon last week. And it's good if you like turkey bacon. Not
I
everybody
like
does.
some turkey bacon. I don't like all turkey bacon because some turkey bacon tastes like rubber to me. And and then there's some turkey bacon that tastes really good. I do more turkey bacon now than regular bacon, but I'm sorry. I've got to have my bacon from time to time. Anybody else out there like regular bacon? I don't mind turkey bacon at all. That is my go-to, but regular bacon, you can't beat regular bacon. That's for certain. But the cabbage and the cauliflower, I even like I'm gonna try this new recipe. It's called it's like lasagna, but
Hmm.
instead of the noodles, you use the cauliflower.
Oh,
I can't wait to try that.
well, if you can ship it over to me, I'll try it also.
Oh, the cauliflower lasagna? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's gonna be something. I can't wait to see what's gonna happen with that one. I'm not for sure of the cheese, but I'm gonna be checking into that. I'm not vegan, but I do a lot of chicken and turkey and salmon. Not a big beef eater, but those are the things that make I don't feel my gut acting up because I do take vitamin D and probiotics. I don't have high blood pressure. I don't have diabetes. And as we know, we mentioned things that people are um, struggling with. People are struggling with their health because they're used to old habits. But now that we know better, we should do better. And that's why I try to eat as clean as possible. But I like what you said about that plant based oil. I was using canola oil for a long time. thinking that was healthier. But now I'm leaning more towards the extra virgin olive oil, EVVO, and grapeseed oil because you can get a higher temperature with the grapeseed oil.
You know,
So,
you can also do that with macadamia nut oil.
well, I'm
It's
allergic to nuts.
oh,
So,
okay. Well,
see, that's why, yeah, I'm allergic to nuts. So, my platform is not plant based, although I understand it.
mhm.
But being allergic to nuts, I have to take a different route. So, yeah, I
Look
wish I
into
could.
macadamia nut uh, oil is very good. As I said, it's pricey, but the other thing that I've become careful of is excess sugar intake.
Oh, yeah.
There's
Oh,
sugar
yeah.
in everything, literally everything. And to the extent that I can avoid sugars, I read labels. I've been reading labels for the last 15 years. And so it takes me a while in a
That's what a
grocery
lot of people
store.
don't, they don't know. Yes. A lot of people don't know how to read the labels,
Mhm.
which is why I cook because I know what I'm putting in my food. There's no additives or preservatives, as clean as possible. So,
When you,
yeah, you're right about that.
the rule of thumb, if there's something that you can't pronounce on a label, you don't
Don't
need
eat.
it.
That's right. Well,
There's so many forms of sugar, fructose, and all of those ending in OSE. There's
right.
so much hidden in it that it's not always that a person doesn't know better. It's just that a person doesn't know what manufacturers are putting in the food
Yeah.
because we've been trained not to understand what it is that we're eating. The
A lot of
commercial
people don't.
will just sweep you up into la la land, and you're putting synthetics in your body that cause inflammation, that cause that droop after a lunch. Some people think that whatever it is in turkey that's natural is what causes them to get sleepy. Thanksgiving dinner or whenever you eat turkey, no, it's a product that those turkeys have been injected with that's causing that. And
Right.
then
You used to
some
think it was tryptophan, but it's not the tryptophan,
no,
it's
no,
the additives
no,
and the
no.
preservatives. Right.
Some foods are added to keep you buying it. It's like when I lived in Vegas, I rarely went to the casinos. I usually had a job related reason for going. But there is something that is sprayed in the air. It's invisible. You can't smell it, but it's sprayed in the air and it keeps people in a casino for hours.
Wow. And not to mention that the Southwest has the dust that has spores in it and can get in the
Yes,
lungs. And I don't
yes,
think a lot of people realize that. So there's so much going on in the world that's why it's important to have platforms like these so that we can talk about some of this stuff because people are from all over the place,
yeah.
and what the Midwest has, the West Coast doesn't have, or they may not even know about it. It
Mhm.
East Coast, West Coast, that's why there's all these different regions. And why I say here in Colorado, people don't realize that the vid is still happening. It's so much going on. And that's why it's good to have platforms like these so people can become acquainted with one another, not just to do the gossiping thing, but to be able to compare and contrast what's different in their area, what's different in our area. That's why I feel like these platforms are so well needed, especially now. Because, okay, let's talk about introverts. You know, people are on a mission or people don't go anywhere. They keep themselves company, which I'm guilty of that. But there comes a time when we have to get out and socialize. So let's call this a social hour.
Well, what in fact we're doing is trying to get back to the old fashioned sitting on your porch and talking to the person or the people on the next porch or down the street. We're trying to get back to the old fashioned conversations, old fashioned communication. And we can look each other eye to eye on platforms, but we're
Right.
harkening back to the good old days. And I think what we're trying to do is to retrieve the best of what was going on when we knew our neighbors. I have lived on this block since 2006. And the other day, when I locked myself out of my house, and I'm not going to go into that, but the other day when I did, I realized I knew one person on the block, and that's because I had met her through my daughter, who doesn't live with me. The person at the end of the block, who we used to call the mayor of the block, and her family had moved. So I didn't know them. Jeremy, who lived catty corner across from me, had taken a promotion and moved. And I miss Jeremy because he would always bring my trash cans back up and put them in my yard, kind of thing. But of maybe 8 or 10 people, I only knew one person. And she didn't answer her door when I
Wow.
knocked on it. And it's 2:30 in the afternoon. The sun's pretty hot. And I'm standing there with a handful of tulips that I had gone to my yard to cut, trying to find somebody to help me because I hadn't brought my cell phone.
See? And that's something.
So that's part of it. And the lady who just turned into the alley and was very, very kind and helped me, I believe will become a friend. She helped me get in touch with my daughter, and my daughter came over and let me in and all of that. But that was accidental, although we believe that that was planned by a supreme being, planned by God, really.
Yeah.
That's
Because in these times, we've seen so much negativity and we've seen so much sadness
mhm.
that people need people. And it's a good thing that she was a nice person, because
Yeah.
could you imagine any other way?
But the other thing that is propelling a lot of this is fear. We are afraid to go out, and I will not blame it on COVID, although it caused lots and lots of fear.
Yeah.
But neighborhoods aren't as safe as they used to be.
No.
People are transient. They move in and out. I remember in 2008 when the market crashed and people were either losing their homes or renting them out. And so
Yeah.
there was so much turnover. And we start losing that person to person contact that's so important to the health of the block, the health of the community. And I think we have to start talking about the health of our communities, because many of our communities are ill. They're sick.
Yep.
Crime
I
is
agree.
going up like crazy. It's scary, and especially for people who are older. Now
And
they're
that's what I'm saying. What are people going to do if they're not out meeting anybody? Which is another reason why I say these platforms are good, because you can, like, we've been on weekly, and to grow a platform is kind of difficult, especially if you're not gossiping or, saying negative things. But every platform doesn't have to be negative. So for mature people that are watching on these platforms, I know a lot of people are on Facebook, they may not interact, or they may be on YouTube, they may not interact, but these are the type of platforms that they could come to, and we can talk as if we're neighbors, on our porch. Just imagine you're on your porch, I'm on my porch, and we're just talking.
all I need is a rocking chair. That's
I
what
had a rocking chair I loved. I had it for so long and I finally had to give it away. But yeah, you can get a rocking chair that and just look, we can pretend we're rocking. Let's just rock and talk, but that's what people need right now, I feel. And for
we
those
need.
that don't feel, well, there's thousands of other channels, but why not, you know, put a comment in the comment section, talk about say what you want to talk about. And this is Saturday Night Talk. Who's taking up space? There's a lot of people out there that can join us, but eventually I think they will come and we can talk, and then know that, like we said, what are people, um what are they stressing over, or what are they dealing with, and then they can meet us over on the private section of our Patreon page and talk privately. But at what point do people connect? That's what I'd like to know.
Well, and a part of that is, how do we build trust? You and I look safe. You look safe to me, and when I first met you, you look safe to me. But there's so much scamming going on
Yeah.
that I think it may take a while for people to learn to trust. My daddy told us when we were growing up, your word is your bond.
Yeah.
And he said that because we didn't have that much money. But the word was iron bound, it was ironclad. If you said you were going to do it, you were bound and determined to do it. It was just as simple as that. Many people don't know that. Many young kids don't know how important one's word is. Say what you mean and mean what you say. That's what we need to be trying to convey, not only to kids, but to adults who've never been
I know
introduced
that's
to
right.
the concept. There's
Yeah,
lots to
because we
talk about. We have lots of fears. We have lots of questions, but we have learned to hide them, to
yeah.
put them away, to be afraid of being ridiculed, to be being afraid that people expect us to know more than we know. And I maintain this: we are more alike than we are unlike.
Yeah. I agree with that. I agree with that. Um you said something earlier. I should have written it down. Um I didn't even write it down, but you're right. We are more alike than we are unlike. But um not just for Patreon, but there was a verbiage that you had just mentioned. So I'm trying to think that's part of a loss as well. Not only people not trusting, people are not trusting, and how do we how do we get that back? What are the things that we need to do to people in the community and the neighborhood to get that trust back?
Well, let's be realistic. Let's not promise what we can't produce, because at the same time, there are comparisons on TV, in the newspapers, of people who have given their word and not followed through.
That's true.
That's why it's so hard to build trust. It takes time, and I'm saying we have to be realistic about how much we are willing to invest in building trust, how long we're willing to do it, how we can measure whether or not we're doing it. But it really does take feedback from the people who are listening. We need feedback. We need you to talk to us. And if we say anything, I'm speaking for myself. If I say anything that you don't understand, I'd certainly appreciate it if you'd ask a question so I can clarify. Because I promise you, my intents are pure, my intents are clean. I just want to know what's going on in different people's worlds.
Yeah.
What kills you, what angers you, what stops you, what you question, just people to people, person to person. Got a
Yeah,
lot.
because your word is your bond. I remember that was the one thing we were talking about earlier, how people pretend to be okay, but they're not okay. It's deeper than that.
Right.
But
Yeah.
people don't want to talk about it. And why do they not want to talk about it? Like you said, for fear or for shame. But if you have a platform where people are able to come together and talk, then if they were to do this every week, just come to a platform where you resonate with people, or we just chopping it up, just talking, then eventually people will let their guard down, and then we can take it to the private sector. But
Right.
right now, just to get people to communicate, I'm trying to figure out, where are those people that are sick and tired of being sick and tired? Or, there's only so many shows you can watch. At what point do we start communicating?
Well, I I think of it in terms of my little yard. My yard isn't that big, but it has room for me to cultivate different plots in different areas. But I have to remove the weeds, and that's a hard job to do. I'm glad when it snows or rains because it loosens the soil and makes it easier to uh, pull the weeds. But I have to prepare that plot. I have to know what I want to plant in it, and I have to make the commitment that I'm going to keep I'm going to keep that area weed free, that I'm
That's
going to
true.
water, that I am going to put a screen over it when the rabbits want to come and share my veggies, that kind of thing.
That kind of thing.
And
That's
so
true.
if we approach,
Uh-oh. Who
we
do
hear,
we have? RN saying sexual. Oh, is that Miss Marie? Sometimes they remain silent because they don't want to be judged by others. Well, that's true. That's exactly what we said. People don't want to be judged by others, which is why we now have the platform on Patreon that is private. So we can talk about certain things, but if they really want to go to a private platform, join us over there on Patreon, where it's a private platform and we can talk about these things, because a lot of people are hurting. Dr. D?
Or take a risk and ask a question. And if you don't want to be known, if you don't want your name known, make up one. But take a risk and ask the question. When I used to do platform work, when I used to do training, most of the time I would start the day by getting set up, and then I'd put a $5 bill on the desk. And I'd say, this is for the person who asked a dumb question. And I promise you, that $5 bill stayed on my desk until the end of the day, because there are no dumb questions. There are no wrong questions. Each one of us has the right to have an opinion and to defend that opinion. That's called conversation, communication. So take a risk and ask the question. And I applaud the young lady who said what she said, because it's absolutely true. But you don't know until you ask. And if you ask and you feel rebuffed or put down or not understood, you can say that too. Wait. You confused what I was saying. That's how communication, that's how dialogue occurs. That's
That's
how
right.
people who are
And that's why
screenwriters write dialogue for other characters. Mhm. Take a risk.
that's good. That's good. Yes, because that's what I think people aren't used to. We're such a computer now. There's no dialogue. People don't know how to communicate. They want to text, and that's so impersonal to me, especially the mature people. We're used to talking. We're used to having a dialogue. And I personally don't want to just text all the time. I want to hear your voice. I want to know what's going on with you. And a text takes all of, to me, that's just me. It takes it out of the personal space.
Well, I remember I was visiting my niece in Virginia, and we were sitting around talking, and somebody asked her, she was in the military, what do you do in the military? And she looked deadpan and said, if I tell you, I'll have to take you out tomorrow morning and shoot you. Okay.
I
Uh,
used to say that.
yeah.
I have to kill you if I tell you. But
Yeah.
now people want to know. There
True.
are some people that are genuine. There are some people that really care, and they can give you an example or help you to have a different perspective. And I'm convinced that people are now, like you said, they don't trust, but we have to get back to trusting those that give them a chance to prove themselves. That's another reason why we have these platforms where people can come on and where people can engage. You Everybody's got discernment. You know who's real and you know who's not real.
Well, think about when we were growing up, our moms told us don't talk to strangers, or whatever. But they were equipping us to be careful. There's a difference between being careful and being paranoid. Now, things happen to people that cause them to be paranoid, but we can still make that distinction that there's a difference between being careful, like our moms told us, look both ways before you cross the street.
Across the street.
So there's a difference between being careful and being paranoid. But if you've been burned over and over and over again, I understand the paranoia, but it doesn't mean that paranoia has to be permanent either. Being careful, being cautious has to be permanent, but not an extreme of caution that goes into paranoia.
Right.
Thinking
Yeah.
everybody's out to get you. No, everybody's not out to get me.
No, no, not at all. Not at all. Well, you see, go ahead, people, and share this out. There's somebody out there that wants to try something different, that wants to connect to different people so that they can talk, that are introverted and ready to start engaging with people. So do you them a favor. Yeah, I know everybody knows somebody that has been cooped up inside, or you've been telling them to get out and meet new people or to try new foods or make healthy choices. Share it out, put a comment down there, and let us know if you want to talk privately. There's so many ways to connect. There's so much going on in the world. People need to decompress. And that's what the Saturday night talks are all about, decompressing, trying to
Do,
do something
do you
different.
remember, excuse me for walking over your words, but do you remember, and this is years ago, the commercial, there was this little boy named Mikey, and his brothers or somebody were trying to get him to try something, and they would say, "Try it, Mikey. You'll like it." Well, it's the same kind of thing. Try this. You'll like it because we like being talked with, not talked at. So let's see what we can do together.
That's true. I want to address this person. I happen to know, um, if this is Marie, feel free to grab the link. If you're not Marie, you are an imposter. And we're not doing that on this channel. I do know that about stranger danger, but I do know Marie would come on the platform and talk about it. I happen to have Marie's book, by the way, and yeah, Marie, if that's you, please come on. If it's not you, I will be calling you after our live. And let me just text you right now. How about that? Yeah, but as you were saying, we either have some. If I don't think it's Marie because um, I actually know Marie, and she was saying sometimes silent because they don't want to be judged by others that we do know. But the other comment, yes, it's in the home and in the circle that they trust. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about people who are introvert and want to become active, want to do something, want to meet new people. But see, some people need my service because they are having mental disorders, and um, you know that's the thing. We need to create a platform for people to talk, not just to be negative, but to find a safe place for them to talk. And like I said, we're going to be doing healing on Patreon. So if that is Marie, feel free to come on up and talk about what it is that you do, and how you can help those who have a problem with trusting, because that is there is validity to that. She's saying it's Marie. Well, you've changed your name, Arian, Sane. Okay, but please feel free to grab the link. It is on YouTube, and come up and talk with us about why people don't want to share. And of course, um, you that's for your platform as well. Like I said, SA, did you see what that was, Dr. D? So those that have dealt with SA, they don't want to talk. But we're going to take it to a different level. We're going to talk about how people can come together and deal with the pain, deal with grief, the sense of loss, which is what Dr. D's book is all about. You know, Notes from a Broken Heart. So she knows firsthand what it's like. We all know what it's like to lose something. Dr. D?
It is devastating, in a word. And each day I could give you a different adjective for the shock, anger, disbelief, bargaining that I have gone through as a result of the death of my younger of two daughters. And yes, I didn't understand the acronym SA initially, but I read the screen. I understand that there are some topics that can be discussed in a general forum, and Patreon is a general forum, but within that, both of us have private email where or phone numbers where after being on Patreon or on here, for example, we can take a call or we can take a text. So we understand the various degrees of openness and frankness, the various degrees of being candid. You can't tell everybody everything. And so it's a matter of learning the boundaries. When we talk here, when we talk on Pantheon, we're talking about boundaries. It's not a quote, anything goes. No, that deteriorates into nothing. We set boundaries. We set personal boundaries, Jewel and I. Each person who comes on sets his or her boundaries. And all we need to know is what your boundary lines are. And you tell us that. We don't tell
Yes,
you. We're not trying to
yes.
be clairvoyant. We're not trying to be mind readers. We're not trying to be experts. We're trying to
And you know,
share
yes,
the wisdom that we've acquired through the years of living, learning, making mistakes, achieving success, and the whole gamut of what it means to be a human being in this world.
That's right. That's
The
right.
other
And
thing
that
is,
is Marie. Thank you, Marie, for clearing that up. She says she wasn't here for the beginning. Sorry about the misunderstanding. That's perfectly fine. But yes, we would like to get people to come on one platform. We keep asking different people. We all have something to give, we all have something to share. But we want people to see that if we can come together as a group of people and collaborate, we can also be like their auntie, so to speak, where we can help and we can share resources and we can embrace those that are hurting. We can embrace those that need to talk, that want to talk. And just like what Dr. D was saying, that's important in these times. We've got to find a way to come together, people. And it makes sense to me. What do you think?
I agree. Um, there's an old expression, quote, the ball's in your court. And that's where it is. It's in the person's decision making power to do what they believe is best for them. We may not be anywhere close to a perfect fit for some people,
Yes,
but I think for others, and we do that by trial and error, but for others, we very well may be.
yes,
We'll see.
yes.
We'll
I'm
see.
going to put the link on in case Marie wants to come on. Um, And yes, it's we are in a time where, like you said, we're in trouble as a community. We've got to find a way to get people to communicate, to share. What's the other word we want to say? Because a lot of people don't know who to turn to. They don't know who to trust, but we do have a private platform. And like I said, um, there's so much to be said about this conversation, but we are getting people to notice, and we are getting people, who knows, maybe next week. I know people are busy. I know people are trying to figure out which platform to be on, trying to figure out who to align with. But the way you do this and the way you communicate is by visiting different platforms. It's by spending 20, 30 minutes on a platform, listening to what they're talking about and sharing. Just like we said, let's act like we're on our front porch, and let's act like we're just sharing. That's the way you learn how to communicate. And I didn't mean to, I got off of what you were saying, Dr. D, but I'm just trying to navigate through the messages that are coming through my phone as well. But I hear what you're saying. And for those that want to play this back and then comment, like Dr. D said, we need to know what you want to talk about. We want to know what is on your mind. And um, it's okay. Uh-oh. Dr. D?
I'm here.
Okay. Yes. So, with that being said, I was trying to give her a chance to come on so she can talk about her book. Um, like I said, that is Marie. She is a nurse. She also has been on our platforms a couple of times. She and I have also gone on Instagram. So Marie McKenzie, sexual assault nurse. Oh, here she is. Let's see if we can bring her up. Hi, Marie. you,
Hi,
you
Marie.
almost had, that's Dr. Dorothy. She is the author of Notes from a Broken Heart. And thank you for participating. I didn't know who you were because you changed your name to RNSANE. And I'm like, that's not Marie, but here you are. So, yes,
I'm hearing two of you.
you are. Oh, turn one of yours off. If you turn your YouTube off since you're on StreamYard.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that was.
You got it. Okay. Thank you. Well, as you know, we were actually talking about what are people doing new? What are they eating? Um, and just life in general. We were talking about life in general. We were also introducing our Simply Healing on Patreon, so that people can talk privately.
Yes.
So, how are you? You are out and about promoting your book, talking about essay. Would
Yes,
you like to take a
I just
moment?
returned from an event where because April it's Sexual Assault Awareness and Prevention Month, and also Child Abuse Prevention Month. So I was just at an event, so I just got back home. So, yes,
Well, you know, you're always welcome to come on the platform. We're trying to get up to 10 people to be on the platform so we can talk about the loss. People like, with
yes,
SA, they've lost something. They've lost themselves. They've lost a part of them.
yes.
And so we can talk about it here on our platforms, but privately, it would go to patreon.com/simply jewel. The difference is it's $49.99 for those that are serious, where we can help them on many different levels.
Right.
So if you'd like to be a guest, once we start getting people to go to Patreon for that um, private section, then we will have different people talking and helping. And for Dr. D, she will be talking about grieving, how when you have a sense of loss, people grieve.
Yes.
And that's what we're going to do on that platform.
Okay, that's awesome. That's so needed. So many people are hurting out there and looking for support, and there's just not enough. And sometimes it's not being promoted where they are aware that someone or something is there that can help them. A lot of people are suffering in silence. So
Yes.
it's great.
See, so, and then you had also mentioned in the comment, strangers are dangerous too, because it's in their circle, it's people that they trust. And see, that's a sense of loss as
Yes.
well,
Yes.
because people that you trust and then they take something from you, that's
Right.
difficult. Dr. D?
It's painful, it's difficult, it's hard, it's all of those things that have led to the expression, the silent scream. I believe so many of us walk around silently screaming for all kinds of reasons. One has to do with the fact that people move away from us, they relocate. We get older, people people die,
Yes.
and we can turn around and end up being alone or feeling alone because we are alone. And that was the reason years and years ago I started inviting women in the neighborhood, uh, in groups that I was a member of, every Monday to come and sit at the dining room table
Nice.
with the teapot on and different teas, and we'd sit up and talk about any and everything. Not everybody carries the same baggage,
Right.
but I wanted a forum where each person had the opportunity to talk. Because it's
Yes.
no fun walking around talking to yourself all the time. No fun.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's for sure. You want to be able to build a community. So that's what we're trying to do, Marie. I know you are busy as well, but there we've got to come up with um a time where it works for all of us. I know that you've been on Miss J's podcast and you're going to be doing another one. I think it's tomorrow.
tomorrow. Mhm.
Yes. And so that would be four of us, and we need six more people that can come together on one platform. I think we all are trying to be great,
Yeah.
and that's great.
And
But we
collaboration
also,
is important too. Yes.
yes.
Yeah.
So if we can come together with a time where we all can get on a platform and we all can share what you're doing, what Dr. D is doing. I know Miss J is unfiltered, but it's also about healing. It's
Exactly.
also about making healthy choices. And we all can take a um, turns talking about what it is on that particular day, that particular topic. So I know Dr. D has been reading excerpts from her book. Uh, you and I have talked about this a long time ago, but we want people to start healing. And if they hear an excerpt of your book, an excerpt of Dr. D's book, we can even talk about that as far as healing. But we want people to feel safe, that they feel like they can come to a platform and we all are supporting one another. When
Right.
they see us supporting one another, they'll start supporting us all because
Right.
we're all on one platform.
I think that's a great idea.
Good. Okay.
And
Well, as we,
Marie,
Yes, doctor.
my name is Dorothy, but
Dory.
my my favorite sister, if my other sister hears this, I'm in trouble. But my favorite sister's name is Marie.
Mm,
Marie lives in Chicago. So it'll be very easy to remember your name.
yes, and I remember yours. Thank you.
well, that's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
That's
I'm on
good.
board,
I
Jill.
go ahead.
I
Say
said
it
I'm
again.
on board. I'm on board. So let's set up a time and date, when we can do it consistently.
Okay, that'll be good. And we were going to stay on for an hour. If you want to stay on for a few minutes, Dr. D is going to read. Are you wanting to read today or?
I'm not prepared to read. I didn't choose one. And there are a whole bunch of them. I just don't want to pick one out of the blue kind of thing.
Oh,
I try and let spirit lead me about reading, but promise I'll
okay.
do it the
Well,
next time.
let me share something with you, something on a good note. I am going to share. Did you guys hear about Cool and the Gang? Um, let me put this up. I'm going to share and we can discuss this on the way out. Or Marie, do you have an excerpt from your book that you'd like to read?
I can go find it.
Let me share my
Let me. Yeah.
uh, this is what I was going to share.
Yeah. We'll read it another time.
Let's see.
So I have to go find it. Mm.
All right. So what I'm sharing is and Cool and the Gang, and
Oh yeah,
let
I heard that.
me put my disclaimer up. So I can read about Robert Cool Bell, the last surviving member of Cool and the Gang, celebrates their Rock and Roll Hall of
Hall of
Fame
Fame.
news. It's been 60 years, he said, and they finally made it.
Oh,
And that
wonderful.
was just 4 days ago.
I heard about
Yes.
that
So
today,
you
earlier
see,
today.
you did.
Yeah,
Yes.
some
So
people
I
are
think
talking
it's a
about it.
beautiful thing where after all these years, um they finally get to celebrate after losing all of his brothers, and he's the only surviving one. And they asked him how did he feel about that, and a lot of people thought that they had already
Right.
they've gotten other awards but never the Hall of Fame. So that's on a good note. We're ending in a good note. And until next time, would you guys like to say anything else on the way out?
Thank you for having me. I'm so glad I saw the pop up on my phone when I was just sitting there and it popped up. So I'm glad I got to join on, and I'm fully support you in what you're doing, and I'd love to be a part of it. Thank you.
And I'm happy to have met you,
Oh, same
Marie.
here.
I look forward to more of it.
Yeah.
More of it. And thank you, Jewel, for
Yeah.
the invitation.
Yes.
Great job, Joe.
Yes, my pleasure. I was looking to see if I had Marie's information. Give me a second and I will be right back, okay? Stand by. Don't hang up. You guys get acquainted. I'll be right back.
Marie, do you live in Colorado?
I live in Orlando.
Oh, I lived in Orlando for 5 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah, I did. The Katrina in
Okay.
2005 is what sent me back to Denver. I've never been that frightened in my entire life.
Mm.
I didn't grow up around hurricanes.
Yeah, that was a frightening time.
Yes.
All right. So, since I have two people that have been on my platform before, I have Dr. D's book, Notes from a Broken Heart. Oh, so we got the light.
Yes, I can see it.
Okay.
Notes from a Broken
Broken Heart. And I have Marie's book, Things That Keep Me Up at Night.
Heart.
Dr.
Write
Marie
that down.
McKenzie. Yes. Now, this book right here is a good book. It's funny, but yet it's serious. And what I like about it is she speaks in her own dialect, Jamaican.
Yeah.
Jamaican.
Patois,
And
Jamaican patois.
I was cracking up. So I really like that book. So for all of those who are watching or going to watch the replay, you got two books here. Things that keep me up at night by Marie McKenzie, and Notes from a Broken Heart by Dr. Dorothy T. Clark. So you guys, everybody's writing a book. I'm going to have to write a book because I feel left out. And we also are going to start talking about healthy choices, things that people want to try, getting out of their comfort zone. People have got to get out of their comfort zone. They've got to start meeting people on these platforms and deciding who you resonate with, but also helping people at the same time. And for those that don't want to be on live, you are free to go to patreon.com/Simply Jewel for our healing session that is private. And for those that are serious, That's why it's $49.99, because people need help, and people are afraid to be on the platforms. But if we have all of the people such as yourself, Coach, myself, um, Marie, Dr. D, we can help people to start healing. Because I'm going to tell you guys, everybody's not okay. And
Right.
you can't get into the doctor's appointments. What are they going to do? While people are waiting to get into doctor's appointments, 3 months later, 4 months later, we can be helping somebody. And we may not be in the directory or whatever, but we are on these platforms, and we can help people, help them to thrive, help them to make healthy choices. Those have been, can you say the word SA? Can you
Yes.
say assaulted?
Sexual
Okay.
assault. You can
And
say
those,
sexual assault.
okay. And those that are still grieving, grief, loss of a job, loss of a husband, loss of a friendship, loss of hope. We have Patreon. So, with that being said, thank you guys for coming on.
You're welcome.
I appreciate you. Marie, you almost had me go postal on you, girl.
I said, let me get her quick before she. Yes, that was me.
Yeah, because I was getting ready to invite whoever that person was, if they were a hacker or a troll. I'm calling Marie right now.
Yes.
I know her. So I'm glad you showed up and showed out, girl. Thank
Yes.
you so much for coming on.
Yes. Thank you
And
for
for
this platform.
those, yes, we'll be in touch. And next week, we'll try it again. We're trying to figure out which day. We may move it. If everybody's not available on Saturday, let's talk about what days work for us. And as you know, we still have Simply Jewel Atypical podcast on Tuesday nights. And I'm thinking about doing the makeup again, Makeup Monday, where you get helpful hints, and then we'll take it over to Patreon. So we're going to be growing this coming spring and summer. So thank you for coming on. I'm going to serenade you guys as we go out. I will put up our little thingamajigger, and maybe you guys will stay on for a minute after we end the live. Is that okay?
Oh, that's okay.
That's fine.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Marie.
Good night. Reach out for support, guys.
Thank
We're here
you.
for you.
Thank you.
Welcome.